Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at an opinion piece from the Wall Street Journal that's written by Kimberly A. Strassel. It was published on May 21st. And I have a lot of problems with what she's trying to push here because it's complete bullshit, to put it simply. Biden will answer for FBI abuse. Barr is right to rule out a criminal probe. Voters will have their say in November. Now, this is the thing. What they did with the unmasking and trying to get Flynn and trying to go after Trump was undermine this government. They tried to overthrow a legitimately elected president. To me, when you're doing a coup, soft, hard, or otherwise, you're committing a crime. I think you should be prosecuted for said crime. I mean, if that leads to you walking up the stairs at the gallows at Leavenworth, so be it. I don't care if you're a politically elite shitbag or if you're an average Joe. If you try to overthrow this government, a legitimate one. I'm not talking like, say, revolution and the government's corrupt. I'm talking about the legitimate government as it stands right now. If you take action against it, like they did, yeah, I have no problem with that. And it should happen. I mean, if you're guilty, you should be walking up those stairs. Anyway, let's get into her opinion piece here. For millions of Americans frustrated that no Obama-era leaders have been held to account for the Federal Bureau of Investigation's rogue 2016 actions, Attorney General Barr this week offered an important reminder. Former Vice President Joe Biden, at least, will face judgment in November. Now, here's the thing. It was not rogue. They were following orders from the highest levels of government, as in the Oval Office and, creepy Uncle Joe, the second guy in charge, we'll say. So, to me, you can't say they're rogue. We are now finding out they had direct knowledge and were directing this shit. Rogue makes it sound like it's just like Stroke and his little fucking, thought little dumb bitch broad and a few others involved. This was a coup being orchestrated from the highest levels of government by the previous administration because they didn't like the results of an election. Oh, God. Mr. Barr felt compelled to address the Biden question after last week's news that the putative Democratic nominee was among those who unmasked incoming Trump National Security Advisor Mike Flynn. He did more than that. They were looking at more than unmasking. They pushed a false narrative. They tried to overthrow the government. There was literally a conspiracy going on here. How the hell does this not at least fall under the RICO Act? To me, if one party knows what's going on, the other parties don't have to under RICO. Every one of these assholes, just charge them with RICO. Real simple. Solves the problem. You get every last one of the motherfuckers. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but it's just common sense. They use RICO to bust mobsters who had absolutely nothing to do with something because of 65 fucking degrees of separation. There's direct knowledge here. So why can't they make a RICO case? I mean, it really ain't that hard. They've gotten mobsters with that so pathetically easy. It's not even funny. It was like not even sport for them. There was no game to it, if for lack of a better way of putting it. Mr. Biden was also present at a January 5th, 2017 Oval Office meeting at which the FBI's Flynn investigation was discussed, suggesting a political element. How does that just suggest a political element? If you literally have them talking about the investigation to Obama and Biden, they know what's going on. They've been saying that, we didn't know anything, we had no clue. They're literally being briefed. Everything's pointing to them directing what's going on. This is not going to fly. this narrative you're trying to push here. The narrative, I mean, Barr, he's an establishment, like neocon fucking fanboy. Well, not a fanboy, but he was their boy. Look at Papa and Baby Bush. He was their boy. I mean, I've always had this mentality of being skeptic and taking Barr with a grain of salt. And this is a good example of it. He's protecting establishment shitbags like Biden, when what they did was literally try to overthrow a government. Well, commit a coup, same difference, but yeah. So what does that tell you? Don't trust them, maybe? The revelations inspired President Donald Trump to tweet Obamagate more than once, and there had been growing speculation that U.S. Attorney John Durham's probe was homing in on Barack Obama and Mr. Biden, and it probably is. And I love how we're referring to him to Mr. Biden instead of former VP. It used to be with presidents and vice presidents. You didn't call them, like, if you were directly dealing with them, okay, you might refer the title to them and say, Mr. President or Mr. Vice President, even though they're no longer in office. You might show them that courtesy. But when it came to referring to a president or a vice president that was no longer in office, you always prefaced it with former vice president or former president. But Obama, the golden child, he's in their minds still president. And Biden, I get a kick out how she refers to him as Mr., but that just made me think of that. Anyway, Mr. Barr put that idea to rest at a press conference. Based on the information I have today, he said, I don't expect Mr. Durham's work will lead to a criminal investigation of either man, because of course not. Because if they actually did a criminal investigation of either man and showed the full all-out corruption and like scope of what they were doing in regards to undermining this government and this nation, the American people would probably go beyond the point of losing their shit. Even the normies seeing something like that would be like, what the fuck? They would lose trust in government. There would be a major issue with stability of the nation, at least politically. All right. We would look like a third world tin pot dictatorship, which to an extent, the United States has become when you have the deep state and you have people like Obama and Biden and Hillary, okay, more than willing to operate because they think that they have the end-all be-all of power and do so beyond the scope of the law, violating it, okay, like wiping their asses with it. You're becoming a third world tin pot dictatorship type of government. And when that realization hits the American people, they're going to wake the fuck up to a lot of shit that's been going on. And that's one thing that an establishment person that, ran fucking the DOJ for two fucking rhino neocon shitbags from the same family, Papa and Baby Bush. There's something going on, because a legit person in his position would be like, well, if it leads there, it leads there. They wouldn't be already negating that there would be something leading to that. They wouldn't say that this early in this. At least that's how I see it. Because if he was being legit, he would either be keeping his mouth shut, or he would have said, there's a possibility it could go that way, but he would not flat out dismiss it. Anyway, let's move on here. But the press largely ignored the fuller context of Mr. Barr's remarks. He reminded Americans that our system provides for two methods of accountability, political and criminal, and it is dangerous to mix the two. Well, here's the problem. If you have someone who's committed criminal acts, do you want them to be running for political office? Especially when he's a member of a party that likes to rig the shit out of elections, has been doing so as a tried and true, pastime. I mean, go back to fucking Kennedy. You had dead people in Chicago who literally had their addresses as the cemeteries they were buried in, voting for Kennedy. You had, with the last election, dead people voting. You had illegals voting. And you had Democrats get caught busing people from different districts in like New York City. It was New York City. So, I mean, do you really want, when they'll do everything to rig an election, do you want to just leave it up to chance that he could get in when your elections are starting to have that, tin pot dictator third world rigging going on? You would want the criminal aspect to be investigated because you want the American people to know. And if they go in front of a trial of their peers and they're found not guilty, so be it. But if they're found guilty, you just saved the country from a major fucking issue of like more corruption than would have been, let's say, like with the idea of Hillary in office. Well, that's actually impossible, but you get the idea. This is ridiculous. This is why I have a problem with this. The Attorney General noted that for decades, there have been increasing attempts to use the criminal justice system as a political weapon. He specifically cited the grave injustice of the law enforcement and intelligence apparatus that advanced a false and utterly baseless Russian collusion narrative against the president. That narrative was provided to the FBI by Democrats and Hillary Clinton campaign, making the FBI's Trump investigation the purest expression of politicized injustice. But also on the same note, we have a neocon shitbag defender, lackey here, with Barr, all right, leaving out the fact, and this person leaving out the fact that went with John McCain and Jeb Bush. And when they had no fucking steam and no way to play it, that fucking piss dossier went the way of Hillary Clinton, and she fucking continued funding it. So you have both sides of the false left-right paradigm. The establishment fucking hacks. The neocon rhino scumbags. And your basically establishment Democrat piece of shit types colluding together to try to get rid of Trump. It was like, well, we can't really use this, so hey, Hillary, here, take this. You might be able to use this to your advantage. Check out this piss dossier. I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, you literally have them talking about politicized justice, and you look at what the Democrats did. They literally abused Obama's tenure. They abused so many different offices of the federal government to go after conservative groups, to go after individuals, whatever way they could. Hell, Nixon fucked with the IRS, and that's one of the things that led to his impeachment. Obama does it. Oh, nothing to see here. Someone falls on their sword for him. I mean, we have one of the most corrupt administrations we've had in God only knows how long, or at least that we've seen openly corrupt. I will say at least. Mr. Barr said this weaponization wouldn't continue on his watch. The Supreme Court, he noted, distinguishes between abuse of power and a federal crime. Not every abuse of power, no matter how outrageous, is necessarily a federal crime. That's when he noted the unlikelihood of a criminal investigation of Mr. Biden or Mr. Obama for... Yeah, but here's the thing with that. Not all abuse of power is a crime. But that doesn't mean that all crime isn't an abuse of power. On the same note, so you can say that something's an abuse of power and it's not necessarily criminal, but you have to look at it from the flip side and say, well, it's criminal and it's an abuse of power from the same note. Because, I mean, when you are literally trying to undo the will of the people, the voice of the people, what they voted, you are committing treason. You are trying to commit a coup. You are trying to overthrow the government, the legitimately elected government. That is a crime. That's the whole foundation for what they were doing. That's what they were trying to do. So how is that not a federal crime? I mean, treason is pretty much laid out clearly in federal law. I don't know how much more clear it could be on that note. like I said earlier, it leads to the stairs at the gallows in the prison yard at Leavenworth in Kansas. Or it leads to like the electric chair or gas chamber. I mean, look at oh god, the husband and wife spies there that got fucking electrocuted. Personally, I prefer the idea of if you're going to have a high profile person that gets nailed on this, if they're guilty, I hate to say it, but they should be hung. Because you want to set an example for other politicians to not do what they did. And I think when you have them swinging, if you leave them there to swing for a little while, you know, for pictures, photo ops, shit like that, yeah, I think they're going to think twice. Anyway. That's when he noted that, oh yeah, okay, I already read that. For anyone who misses the obvious point, while their actions may not rise to a crime, both men may be guilty of an outrageous abuse of power. Such abuses require political accountability through elections. But what if those abuses of power are intentionally designed to go against the will of the people and overthrow the legitimately elected government, president, before the transition of power or during the transition of power or after it even? They've been trying to get rid of him for 2 years based on this whole fucking thing. It's a long pattern. When you literally have this Russian bullshit that we're talking about and the Flynn thing that they used and everything else that went after Trump, that they used to go after Trump for impeachment. They tried to commit a coup. I keep repeating myself on that, but it's the truth. They literally tried to overthrow this government. They committed treason. They should be investigated for it. Anyway, it's a powerful point, one largely missing in the Russian collusion scandal. The Justice Department's Inspector General, execrated the behavior of the former FBI leaders like James Comey and Andrew McCabe. But whatever happened to Mr. Obama's brag, the buck stops with me. Mr. Obama appointed Mr. Comey despite many warnings, including on these pages, that he had a record of prosecutorial, I can't believe I just got tongue-tied on that, prosecutorial excess and bad judgment. Another Obama appointee, Attorney General Loretta Lynch, failed in her responsibility to keep Mr. Comey in line. Well, here's the thing. It wasn't about keeping them in line. They were working for Obama. They were literally doing what they were told. So, of course, Lynch isn't going to rein Comey in, and Comey, is going to be doing what he's doing because he's being told to do it. The former president didn't clean up this mess because the Obama-Biden administration and Democrats in general are fine with politicized justice. Oh, fuck yeah. Look at D'Souza. Look what they did to him. Miss Lynch's predecessor, Eric Holder, proudly declared himself an activist attorney general and pursued ideological campaigns against churches, corporations, and state voter identification laws. Politics permeated every Obama agency, from the Internal Revenue Service, which terrorized conservative nonprofits, to the Environmental Protection Agency, which bullied developers. It did more than just bully developers, but they went after a shit ton of people just for the sake of it. Yeah, like people like collecting rainwater and shit. Yeah. Let's see. Anyone who has a well, people who had springs, had to basically cap them off and shit because they could not justify spending tens of thousands of dollars, if not more, on equipment to supposedly take clean water and make it clean by, shooting it with UV light and everything else and running it through filters, which kind of defeats the purpose of spring water because you're pulling out those minerals and that with these filters that you kind of want in the water. But yeah, so yeah, EPA, they were really sleazy, shitty, scummy people over there with the shit they were pulling. This made the regional area news where I live. We see a lot of stuff from Massachusetts, and living in New Hampshire and that. We see stuff from Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont. We tend to, the small state thing, we tend to get the other state stuff every so often. And with Obama's whole EPA thing on the springs and wells and shit like that, what ended up happening was there was this gas station owned by, a local family, local chain, Hafner's. And in Lawrence, Massachusetts, they had a spring that they allowed people to go to, fill up their jugs. They constantly tested the water. The water was clean. The quality of the water was much better than the city of Lawrence's water, I'm sure, without a doubt. And so people would get bottled water, would get the spring water to drink. And it was actually a key integral part into the homeless surviving in Lawrence, because it was their source of palatable drinking water. And when they had to shut it down because of the Obama administration's EPA regulations, a bunch of homeless people died because of it. And here he is, I want to raise homeless up. Well, dude, your stupid bullshit killed a bunch of them in Lawrence. What are you going to say about that? I mean, because, the environment, which the water was already clean, it's about power and control. You control water, you control access to water, what you can do with it, you control food, you control all those types of things, you control the people. And that was the intent of that. And look at innocent people, the homeless, died because of his overstepping with these agencies and stuff. I mean, it was a side note, but anyway. Mr. Biden's support of this approach and his own wouldn't it be more rah-rah-rahing instead of rah-rahing? Because it doesn't, you're trying to say that he's cheering for himself. You need more than rah-rahing. That makes, that just sounds wrong. But anyway, and his own rah-rahing of the FBI and intelligence abuses not cheering, but deserves center stage in the campaign. Well, not only does it deserve center stage in a campaign, it should be center stage in a criminal investigation. We still require answers on his specific role in the Flynn saga, but what's already clear is that Mr. Biden was a nodding believer in the politicized Comey approach. Asked on January 12, 2017 by MSNBC's Andrea Mitchell if it was a mistake for intelligence officials to include the dossier in their briefing of President-elect Trump, thereby allowing it to leak. Now, here's the thing. Trying to make it sound like the dossier leaked because it went to Trump. They leaked it themselves. Mr. Biden repeated the talking points that Mr. Comey had an obligation to do so. I mean, they're trying to make it sound like because it went to Trump, Comey had to leak it. No, this was how they were playing their game. This was planned. And asked why, CNN in February 2008, and asked by CNN in February 2018 if he had seen anything to suggest the abuse of Foreign Intelligence Service Court, Mr. Biden credulously asserted that the FBI's process were too rigorous for anything to go wrong. Mr. Biden has been mum on the Inspector General's report outlining the FBI's outrageous manipulation of the court, which happened on the Obama-Biden watch. Now, here's the thing. They wanted Americans to believe that, all this stuff is above reproach. But the non-normie, the person who actually understands the FISA court and everything else, knew long ago that it was a fucking sham. That basically the standard that they have to have in order to get a warrant is literally comes down to, we might need to get a warrant for this, like no real probable cause. It's a fucking rubber stamp in court. People like myself knew this for years prior to this point. So when he said stuff like that, I was like, And I actually got a chuckle out of it. They're actually trying to push this. And now normies are starting to realize that, it's not exactly how they're claiming. This is like ridiculous. They literally got all this shit rubber stamped. Which makes you wonder about these judges as well. I mean, all right, I understand with the court and terrorism and everything else, they might want to keep those people secret. But when they are literally deciding that the government is going to violate the constitutional rights of Americans, which they don't have the power to do, then we should have a right to know who these judges are, under whose administration they were appointed by, so on and so forth. I mean, this is ridiculous. In Mr. Barr's comments and some subtle advice from Mr. Trump, the president's constant pressure on the Justice Department to pursue the prior administration only undercuts the Durham probe. No, it doesn't. Him saying, do your fucking jobs, you stupid fucks. Now, obviously, I'm paraphrasing there, but him saying, do your jobs, investigate, prosecute. That does not undermine the investigation at all. It does not undermine Durham at all. It does not undermine anything. It just makes you guys look like fucking stupid shitbags, because you know, Barr, that if he keeps pushing that issue, his supporters keep looking that you ain't doing a fucking thing, and you can't cover for your neocon establishment rhino fucking Democrat scumbag fucking buddies, and let the low little lying little lackeys take the fucking fall for him. You know that will not fly. Be honest, dude. Because you know what? You're not here. Not even close. Mr. Trump would do far better to make the politicization of the Obama-Biden Justice Department a main campaign point, and to warn Americans that President Biden would again unleash prosecutors to pursue political targets while covering up any further revelations about the 2016 abuses and killing any chance at reform. But here's the thing. He should be making it a political thing. But he should also be on your asses to do your fucking jobs. What they did was treason. They literally tried to overthrow the newly legitimately elected government. If they're prosecuted and they were to be found guilty, I would expect every last one of the motherfuckers involved to be swinging from a fucking noose at Leavenworth. Hell, I'm not one to gore or fucking violence, but in this type of case, because of what they did, I'd be asking for fucking special fucking seating so I could watch each and every one of them drop. Just watch the door open and whoosh. I mean, this is ridiculous shit. You got Barr. Barr's got to go. I hate to say it. At first I was going to give him a chance, but he's got to go. He's just trying to cover for these fucking scumbags, the establishment fucking scumbags that have been running this country and manipulating it for fucking decades. It's ridiculous. Americans can't expect or want the Justice Department to settle political disputes through drummed-up criminal investigations. The country has a tried and true way of settling those fights, a vote. But here's the thing. This is not a drummed-up criminal investigation. What they tried to do was get Trump out of fucking office because they didn't like that he won the election. An election that they tried to rig the ever-loving shit out of and still lost. This was their insurance policy to get him out of office, and it failed. So, how the hell is this a drummed-up criminal investigation when you literally have them try to do that? That would be a legitimate criminal investigation. Yeah. This is why I decided to go through this opinion piece here from the Wall Street Journal, because it's running cover for Barr. And is saying, oh, well, I don't see them getting prosecuted at this point. When they literally did what I've been saying here over and over. Trying to overthrow a fucking legitimately, newly elected, legitimate government. They didn't like the idea that they would have to do a transition of power to a guy that wasn't their man. Hillary, that kind of wasn't their man, kind of fits. Wasn't their psycho lesbian bitch. And now Barr is trying to fight. I look at it this way. Barr is now trying to basically make sure that certain people don't end up in prison. We might see low-level people, a Comey, a Strzok, his little hussy, people like that. We might see them do some time. I could see Strzok doing more time than Comey because, on the food chain, Comey's higher, so he would probably get, for whatever reason, he'd probably get less time, because he's more connected. But yeah, we might see some low-level players get caught up in this, but you've already got them running interference for Biden here. When you literally have Barr, what did he say again? Basically saying at this point, based on information I have today, he said, I don't expect Mr. Durham's work will lead to a criminal investigation of either man. That's, as I said, that's setting things up for the conclusion that we're not going to investigate, as opposed to things are ongoing right now. If he had said, hey, things are ongoing, that would be perfectly acceptable. If he said it could or could not lead to an investigation, that would be acceptable. But he's already discounting the fact of an investigation, which tells you and should be a red flag that something's fucking going on here. And the American people are just going to get shafted again if Barr has his fucking way. And he doesn't want Trump on his ass because it puts the pressure on him. And he doesn't want to have the pressure because he wants to sweep this shit under the rug because he doesn't want to have to throw an establishment, fucking politician like Biden or Obama in fucking prison. He's there to protect them. Anyway, I've covered this well enough. I'm just going to leave things here. If you liked this video, depending on where you are watching it, please give it an upvote or thumbs up. If you want to know when new content of mine hits the internet, don't forget to subscribe to one or more of my social media or video accounts listed here. Also, with YouTube, don't forget to ring that bell. You can find all of my video content on both BitChute and YouTube. This may not be the case with other places I upload to, but I will try to minimize this happening. You are always welcome to interact with me at any of these sites on the list, so feel free to do so. If you have anything you want me to cover in a video when it comes to news or current events, send it right along to me. I will try to do my best to cover it. As always, thank you for watching.